Hello, everyone. We will wait for a couple of more minutes for everyone to join in and connect to the audio. And then I will begin with the introduction. Super excited about today's masterclass. And it's always lovely chatting with Sandesh. So, in a brief time, we'll begin the masterclass for today.
Rohan, do we have a hard limit at 8 or it can go a bit like till 8:15 or so, right?
It's totally up to you. If you want to stretch it for however long you
Cool.
need, you can go for it. All right, everyone, greetings, good evening. Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce Sandesh Rao, co founder and music supervisor at Heard Music. Sandesh has handled end to end music supervision for a diverse range of films and series, encompassing both scripted and unscripted formats. He demonstrates expertise in music curation, providing creative feedback, licensing, negotiations, facilitating seamless communications between production teams and music stakeholders. Please join me in welcoming Sandesh Rao for today's masterclass on landscape of music supervision in India. Over to you, Sandesh.
Thank you, Rohan. Was really excited for this. Just sharing my learnings from whatever I've learned all these years, and just want to share it to the community that you're building and to everyone else. So, okay, let's just start. So today we'll be discussing landscape of music supervision in India. Typically you guys might have heard like who's music supervisor and what he does, but again things are always different in India. As you know, it's not like the typical A to Z kind of stuff that is happening in India. So I'll just walk you through my experience and my learnings through what's happening in India as a music supervisor, and what's happening and what is good practices for artists also to reach out to music supervisors and just collaborate and work along. Cool. So just about me. This is like a very brief introduction about who I am. Um, like music junkie, been being a music supervisor, I also learned to appreciate all sort of music, and whatever, be it any genre, any language, whatever is happening, appreciate everything. Everyone is putting efforts towards it. I'm also a guitarist by choice, and also all the other stuff. I'm also a sound engineer who's working in like recording studios, and then have also done some live stuff. And food, as always, everyone likes food, so that's always there. And also a pet lover, dog lover. So this is me, a very brief introduction about who I am, and who I am as a person. And yeah, let's just head. So these are a few of my past projects that I have worked on. Typically, I have done advertising also, but it's very brief, I would say. But my main interest and experiences goes into long format projects, which is films and web series. So these are like the brief projects that I have worked on, which is Friday Night Plan, Hunt for Veerappan, Killer Soup, and recently The Great Indian Couple Show, season 1. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'll just share all the learnings that I have, gathered across these projects, across these years. I've been into music supervision for last 3 years or so. So these are the projects that I have worked on, and I am working on a lot of other projects which I can't reveal, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, if we are connected, then somewhere or the other, you will get to know what all projects I'm working on. So yeah. So these are like our brief discussion points for today. Consumption of music in India, how music is consumed, and just zooming out and understanding what is like how music is being listened, heard, shared, everything in India. And then sync and music supervisors, what are their typical roles? And then getting into music supervision, if you or anyone else are interested in getting into music supervision, how we can how I can help you out with that, or like just basic insights that I can share for you. And then all the other stuff, like as an artist, what I feel, these are my personal views, that I feel that as an artist, how you can share music with people apart from all the marketing and everything else that you guys do. And then indie musicians working in visual media will be like anything, ads, films, web series. And then getting into music licensing, which will be if someone approaches you for to license your piece of music, how what all are the insights that you can just take care of things. So, okay, so this is I would say roughly the ballpark of, you know, music made and consumed in India, which is roughly 70% of music made in India is for films. And I would say non-film and indie comes up to 20%, and the others is like 10%. I'll come to that in a second. Film music, as you guys know, it's all language, Hindi, Tamil. This is like the major chunk of music that is being made in India, which is all original and ready to go. Non-film is, I would say, it sounds like a film music, but it's not a part of film music. All the mainstream, I would say, maybe Badshah and all of those, the pop stuff that we listen to on a very daily basis. And then comes our near and dear indie music, which is again a part of this whole 20%, which is growing on its own right now. And all the other stuff, which can be like production music. And this can also be all the religious devotional music that is being made, which is not a part of all the other two, film and non-film. So all the other rest comes under this. So why, just understanding that this is India, this is India's music for us as of now. And this is what is happening in India. So where do we fit in this, and how do we facilitate each other in this is very important. So we can go on to the next slide, which is just understanding what is sync. Sync is a very short form for synchronization, which is basically, I would say, an art of negotiation for existing music. This is very simple synchronization of a piece of music, which is synchronized to the video that is happening. So this is sync. And who are music supervisors? Musically inclined music project managers are essentially music supervisors. You can also call music supervisors as HODs of music department, I would say. So here I am personally not coming in and creating music. I'm just facilitating all the other pieces of music that is needed for the visual media. So just musically inclined, which is very specific to music, and just acting as a project manager and making sure. And this is not like a very corporate stuff as much as you can imagine. So it is very creative work. And this is the typical role of music supervisor in India specifically, which falls these are the four main pillars, I would say, which is licensing, original songs, original scores, and liaison. So typical work for music supervisor is just this one, which is licensing only, and he doesn't music supervisor in US or somewhere else also won't get into like original songs, original scores, nothing. But in India, because this is new, everyone wants to learn and fit inside. And again, like we saw how music is made and consumed. So it's the licensing we all know is at a very limited stage right now. So, which is where, if licensing falls into picture, like if the director is very, very keen on licensing a particular piece of music, which is very important to the script or the scene or something like that. For example, in Killer Soup, there was, I don't know how many of you saw Killer Soup, but in Killer Soup, we had licensed Tu Hire, which was which was a constant, this song was kind of ringtone for Konkanas, and the song Manoj Bajpayee also sang like a few places where it's kind of like a stress buster for him. Whenever he's in stress, he would just sing this song, and he things would make him happy. So like you saw this one example where this piece of licensed music was a very important part of the script. So this comes under licensing. Then original songs, again, as we saw, there are a lot of original songs being made in India. So again, we've just tailored our services as music supervisors as to getting into original songs and original scores and understanding, okay, who's doing what. For example, so on Friday night plan that I worked, we engaged Dhruv Viswanath as a composer only, because this was Dhruv writes a lot of songs in English only, and we wanted, and the director obviously wanted a Hindi song. So that is where I went to Dhruv and I was like, okay, I like how you compose the song, the melodies that you make, and the up tempo acoustic stuff that Dhruv always does. So I really liked what he did, and I was like, okay, let's pair you up with a producer so that we can have that commercial film sound along with your composition. So this is something that we did for original songs, and similar to original scores also, but I typically don't get into a lot of original scores. If needed, we get into it. Usually it's always the director has a score composer who must have worked with him in previous projects. So it's typically that, but again, I'm open for if any suggestions that required, and we have also connected through this community, and a lot of people connect and then exchange their work, something clicks, and I'll be like, okay, this person has done really well in action thriller kind of zone, which fits well. And then obviously if there is any romantic kind of movie that the director is asked for, I would not recommend his name again, that being not his strength, because we want to play on each other's strength and not just be like, okay, I can do everything. Of course you can do everything, you can have but I can't go to a singer songwriter and say I want a metal song to be done. Of course he can do it listening to the reference, this, that, whatever, but that is not his strength. So just understanding the strengths and playing on those is very important for original songs and original scores. And liaison is basically just coordination. So typically, the supervisor's work will be 20% of creative work and 80% of organization and operational work, I would say. But again, this 20% is very important to have that 80% in hand. For example, like I told you, that getting Dhruv was a very creative call first. And that is very important for that 20%. Once Dhruv has got, we've onboarded Dhruv, okay, then comes up like the operational stuff, that uh, discussing the commercials with him, making sure that he's sharing all the ideas on time, schedules are being maintained, because like that film work goes onto like years and years of efforts. So we don't want to, and each day is also a cost, so you have to also keep that in mind, because there is like a set budget for the film or web series or whatever. So every day is a cost for the producer, making sure that it's not going above and beyond what is planned. So just talking to all the teams, making sure that is also very important. Moving on, and then obviously at the end of the day, music, people should enjoy whatever is happening. Whatever the music is being made, that should fit the bill. Exactly. And this is something which is very important, is what I feel. And at the end of the day, the director's vision and the story should make the song should go. I'm like, my personal vision is not creating a viral sensational song and getting some popular names just because they're on top of the trending list, is not my thing, honestly. But like, this is just my take. Obviously some people can go and do other stuff. So okay, just this next thing is how to get into music supervision. Like, if you are interested, let's say someone is just, okay, I want to be a music supervisor. These are like, the five important points is what I feel are important to being a music supervisor. One is know your music, get to know your artist, even though you don't like whatever, like Badshah or any other mainstream music. You should know what they're doing. You should just be aware of what is happening. I would not say just like and listen to all of their songs. Even what is like, you should also understand what is not working and what is working in the market, and just understanding the whole spectrum. uh Zooming out of things is what I would say. So understanding the process of creation, I'm sure a lot of you guys are musicians, so you know what is the process of creation, stakeholders, what the label is doing, what the publisher's roles are, what are the costs for to make a music. Like, someone comes up to you saying, I want this song to be made for a film. You can't like randomly just quote, okay, I want 20 lakhs. There is a cost attached to that song. Obviously, like, there will be your studio cost, your musician's cost, your mixing, mastering, everything will be involved. And then it will be your cost also, your efforts and your compositional cost also. So just understanding what is happening, what people are also quoting in and around the industry, is also very important. Because everyone, even the director, knows how much a label licensing would cost versus how much like a Preetham would quote for a song, or how much a Pratik Guhad will quote for a song. They will have a rough idea for everything, because they have been in the same industry. So it's just that understanding where and what is happening is also very important. Again, the second thing is knowing your content. So understanding the production phases, the departments, industry stakeholders, who's the production house, who's the editor. uh, as a music supervisor, you have to deal with a lot of stuff, all the operational stuff. Okay, once the song is done, what all things you need to give out. Okay, should you give out the files to the editor, talking to the edit team, making sure the songs are just placed properly in the edit, making sure the edits are proper, all of those things. And also understanding the decision maker. Like, let's say the composer comes back to you saying, hey, suddenly I think whatever we had spoken, things might go above the budget. Then okay, who's the decision maker? Speaking to the producer, making sure that, okay, if this is a genuine request, making sure, talking to the producer and getting these budgets approved for the musician to facilitate whatever we want. And also talk the talk, which is be vocal about your vision, network across the board, and build relationships are very important, I would say. You be anyone in the industry, you be an artist, you be a label person, you be a publisher, supervisor, anyone, just knowing everyone, each other is very important. Who's doing what is also just important. Like, just talking to people and making sure you're reaching out to them, just casually chatting. Okay, what are you doing? What is happening? It's not always about the work. It's also just getting to know and gaining that knowledge. You will obviously gain some or the other stuff just talking to a new person for minimum 15 minutes, I would say. You will get out of that room learning something new. So it's always better to, like, just be vocal. I'm not saying like just shout, scream, whatever, but just making sure that you're just talking about you, what are you expecting out of the other person. And be enterprising and empathetic. Bring bold ideas and creative problem solving coupled with good listening skills and patience. This is also very important because you are also hired, and you also know, like, the films and web series are being made without a music supervisor also. So what is that value that you will be adding is also very important. You have to be bold with your ideas. You have to be very confident with your ideas. And again, sometimes, it's just like it'll be a very small thing that someone might just miss out. And you being there, you being bold and just conveying things that, oh, what if we do this? And that will be like, oh, this is a very simple thing, why didn't I think about it? But again, this happens in a room where creative people are there, and there is a lot of back and forth with these films and web series also. So it's very important to just be a good listener, be patient, understand what the ask is, what the director wants, understand his vision, his or her vision, and just making sure that you are being you're delivering properly according to what is being needed for that film. It's not again your choice. Oh, I like whatever, I like When I Met Ross, so I'll get them to write a song. No, but what if like this demands for a dance song, and like you need someone else to do it. So again, just understanding what the director and the production team wants and just delivering accordingly. And again, coming back to the same thing, like I told you, the only reason anyone will pay you is for guaranteed high quality success. So again, it's not like the film should, like, when you're watching a film, you are obviously not focusing on the background score always. But it's just that it is so seamlessly attached to each other, the visuals and the audio, that you're not focusing on one thing. You're just focusing on the storytelling that is happening. So again, the high quality success is something which I see it in that way, that at the end of the day, people should enjoy what they're watching. And that is high quality for me, and not like, the numbers and millions of streams and all of those things. If obviously, if the song is good, these things will follow. But again, the song should be good. Like, there has to be something within the song. So these are like the main pillars, I would say, for, like, just getting into music supervision. Obviously, there is much more detailed things, but this is like a overview of what is happening. Then typically a music supervisor will, like, on a day-to-day basis or a weekly basis, I would say, will speak to all of these people. Main person being the director, who's like, the main brain and for the creative. But again, executive producer for all the operational stuff. Whatever creative you want to do, director will be the main person who will take this decision. But apart from that, like budget approval, schedule, this, that, like whatever else that is happening, everything falls under executive producer. Post supervisor is also very important because, like, most of the background score and everything else falls under the post production phase. So there will be a post supervisor who will overlook everything, making sure all the schedules are in place, and just uh, coordinating with music supervisors, making sure we're delivering the film on time as opposed to just being delayed. Showrunner is also very important. I would say he's just like the main center person for everything that is happening around the film. So, but showrunner is also subjective. Showrunner is not always there in all the films or web series, I would say. And supervising producer is mostly just falls under executive producer also, who is on a day-to-day basis just coordinating with everyone else. And even assistant director, who falls under the director, who is just making sure that because the director is also like the main creative person, so he's also taking a look at the edits and the VFX, the color grading, the background score, the sound design, the dubbings, everything taking a look at. So it's always like, if you want something to be checked from the director directly, it's always good to just touch base with the assistant director and making sure these small queries are being answered, as opposed to just talking to the director, because like, you should also respect everyone else's time as to what's happening. And finally, the editor also, whatever music files that is being needed, editor, the assistant editor, or sometimes the assistant director will also help you just coordinate with the editor, so you don't have to talk to the editor directly. Even the post supervisor can also help you speak to the edit team, because post team is also, I would say, dealing with all the VFX materials, and they're constantly in touch with the edit team. So if you want to share some music files to the edit team, you can send it directly or via assistant director or even via post supervisor. So this is like, the main overview of music supervisor. And on like, day to day or a weekly basis, you are talking to a lot of people, I would say. And then on the flip side, now, like, so we've spoken about a lot of like what's happening from a music supervisor's perspective, but I also want to just highlight some of the stuff from the artist's perspective, as to what the if like, if you are an artist and you want to just speak to a lot of people, I would say. So this is something that I would just suggest, some of the things that I think might be helpful, which is getting your music out there. Uh, like, we'll whatever if your music is about to be released, then obviously you'll do all the marketing. But these are the additional things that I feel should is also important, I would say, is just keeping in touch through emails. If there's any newsletters that you want to send out on a monthly basis, that like, you've planned out the year that I want to release one song every month, let's say. So just putting out like, a newsletter, sharing your thoughts. Hey, I went on a holiday and I was very inspired by the landscape and whatever, sharing some photos. And I've been working on like bunch of songs. This is just your expression, I would say, just having your own fan base. And so keeping in touch, like just emails, newsletters, whatever is very important. Then just networking with people, like I mentioned earlier, just talking to everyone, making sure that, you're just understanding what is happening in the industry. And it's not always talking to people for some work or the other, but just understanding, just wanted to know what you are doing, and what projects are you working on, and how does this work, how does that work. You can ask questions, you can learn things. So just networking. And I would also say listening session, which I personally feel which is very important, because there might be a lot of like, people who are not good at speaking, or maybe, people are shy. This can be a scenario. But again, listening session would obviously help you, because your music will speak for itself. It's not like, you have to like, just constantly speak about things. And obviously, once like, let's say you're about to release an album 1 week earlier, you're just having a private listening session. You can organize this at your home also, like, uh provided your parents are chill. But generally, you can have like a bunch of like 15-20 people, very important people, I would say. Just pick and choose who you're also calling. uh then having a listening session with them. Recent listening session that I attended was Sudan's album that came out a few weeks back, or a few months, few weeks, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, that was really interesting. I mean, Sudan is also a very shy person generally, but he was like, very comfortable talking to everyone. And at the end of the day, his music spoke for itself. So and everyone was really happy that, like, his debut album sounded really great. So this is something that I would suggest, like, you can go ahead. Like, the scale of it definitely depends on your budget, time, everything else that is happening. But again, having a listening session, even like, your friends who are non-musicians also, I would say you can call a couple of those people also, just having their general overview on maza aaya ki nahi, very general feedback on that also. But yeah, I mean, that is also something that will obviously be very beneficial for you guys. And okay, the next thing is, like, let's say working for visual media as an indie musician, like, you're an independent musician. Tomorrow I reach out to you saying, hey, I really like your sound and really like your song. I want you to work on, like, a film that I'm working on. So, like, just what are like the core important points that I want you guys to do? Like, generally is staying true to your sound and also to the project's narrative, I would say. Like, understanding, okay, if I am like a alternative alt rock musician, let's say, like, staying true to my sound is very important. Just because it's a film and it's a commercial thing that I am doing, not necessarily my sound should also be very commercial and pop, and I would say. So, I have reached out to you because I really like your alternatives sound, I would say. Maybe you can ask, like, if a supervisor or even someone else from the production team that is reaching out to you saying, hey, I want you to work on a song. Okay, so just having like a very basic questions to them. Hey, have you, like, heard any of my music, and what song did you like? So that is that one song out of your discography, I would say, which really pops out to them. So you can be like, okay, what song did you like? And okay, I like this song. So then you can again ask them, do you want me to, like, like, let's say, for example, you've moved on like some 5-year-old song, and you've become a good songwriter, and someone is referring to that sound. So you can cross question them saying, hey, do you still want that sound? Because, I've evolved right now, and my sound is a bit different right now, and this is what I'm working on. Obviously, we can work on a midpoint where, like, the older sound and the newer sound combined, something new that you're doing. But this is again also to the project's narrative, making sure that, like, the purpose and the the scene description, I would say, that you generally ask for the person, that is very important. And again, like, understanding each person and each department's role, very important to just understanding, like, a assistant director will call you and be like, "Arey, guitar acha nahi lag raha hai." So you be like, okay, is this coming from the director, that, like, creatively, is this something that is bothering you? Like, is it the sound? Because see, again, like, even though the director might be a creative person, the language that they speak is very different. Okay. So it's always like, sometimes the attack of the acoustic guitar being played from the plectrum might also bother someone. So just, okay, should I just finger pick this part so that it becomes a bit softer? So that is also, but these people might not understand, like, if you're playing from a plectrum or versus a finger picking. So this is something that you have to decipher, or, like, a music supervisor can also help you just decipher this thing, and just making sure that, that communication is always there. Because at the end of the day, you are also writing a song for the film, so it is someone else's vision that you are trying to fulfill. And always trust and remember that each project is a joint effort. So, I mean, just to give you a example on, like, a project that I was working on, after a point of time, the artist was like there was a lot of back and forth happening between the director and the artist for a song. And after a point of time, the artist was like, I think the director doesn't know what is happening. So see, that can be the case. Okay. See, I'm not denying that totally. But again, like, the artist should also understand that you're writing a song for that director. It is your choice. If you don't like the song that you're writing, or if you don't like the direction that you're going, obviously you can back out. Okay, you also have an option to just back out and saying, okay, this is not my sound and this is not what I am doing, or this, I might not be the best person to do this. Again, this is a discussion that will have to be happened. Otherwise, if the director is saying that there has to be like a correction, or something is not sounding good and something is off, which means, he is also kind of imagining the song onto a situation, and just he's saying, okay, this might not fit well, something is not working, maybe the groove is not working, or the whatever, just try to have more discussion and understand, and trust that person. Okay, i I think I'm kind of getting it. Let me just work on this song. Give me like 2 days, 3 days. I'll get back to you, and we can do something. So this is just having that trust, making sure that, okay, if he's saying that the song is not working, it's not working for the film. It's not but at the end of the day, whatever songs we also listen to, the finished product that is out, it's all it's approval from everyone, and everyone is happy with that. So again, and if the songs are hit, again, this is combined effort as to the director and producer and everyone else's um approvals, and their trust is also there onto that song. So okay, moving on. If this, we spoke about the original songs, if if you're getting a license request, for example, this is the licensing usage breakdown, I would say, like 7 important points. Just run you guys quickly through this. Okay, we are on time, I think. So yeah, cool. So first, talking about usage, master or publishing, I would really suggest you guys, it's a vast topic in itself, but I would also suggest to read about it. But on a very surface level, I would say master is just using your song as it is and not changing uh, that song. Publishing would be if a character wants to hum a song or sing this song without any piece of music, or with any background score or whatever. So that is publishing, essentially, just understanding how they want to use the song. Exclusivity is something, if you want this song exclusively to be licensed for this project, or a non-exclusive. Typically, it is non-exclusive. That, let's say today I have licensed your song for a film. Tomorrow, if you're getting some other request also, you can give out the same song for licensing. That is non-exclusive. But exclusive would be just exclusively tied in. But again, if there is any exclusive request, you can obviously ask for a higher fees, saying, okay, this is exclusively tied to this song, and I am also restricted uh, according to this agreement. So you can demand for a higher fee, of course. Then comes term, which is for how long do you want to license. Very simple. Do you want, if it's an advertising, if it's an ad campaign, let's say every 6 months there will be a new product from the company coming in. So the ad campaign would typically last for 6 months or 1 year maximum, where they just want to run this ad for 6 months. 6 months later, it will be some other ad. So so, and then typically for films and web series that I work on, it is always perpetuity, which is forever. And this also makes sense. Maybe I'll give you an example. Let's say today Netflix, uh, recently there is a news where Geo Cinema is acquiring Hotstar. This is a news that is happening. Okay, so let's say 2 years. Uh, 2 years ago, you licensed a song to Hotstar, and this is a perpetuity license. So if a greater deal is happening, something like this, where a company is acquiring some other company, then they don't have to come back to you for a separate license saying, oh, 10 years ke baad this is getting expired, but I want this film on my platform forever or whatever. So they don't want to come back to you, which is why they typically do a perpetual license, which is again, like, this is still fine. This is also industry standard, I would say. And they don't want to go back to the licensee again saying that, okay, hey, like this thing has expired. This only like the term usually all happens for ads, and which is a very limited campaign, I would say, very campaign based things. Otherwise, perpetuity is always safe because, it's always better. Territory, just understanding. So these are all points that you can, like, just ask these people that, okay, what territory? And all these 7 points will definitely help you just gauge the fees. Like, this is India only promotions that you're doing. Something like Netflix will be a worldwide, because obviously someone from US, Netflix, Amazon, everything else. Your Sony, Live, Z5, or any other like local OTTs, if they're asking you, then it will be a worldwide. It will be a local territory depending on their broadcast, obviously. Then comes media, which is like, is it like, let's say someone is asking a song for a uh, Instagram campaign. Let's say they want to license your song for an Instagram campaign. This will be only digital, then it won't be broadcast or all the other media types that is happening. Even for that matter, for example, if, like, let's say Zomato is putting up a hoarding on a highway, let's say, and they have used some song lyrics. It will be a publishing usage, non-exclusive, because obviously it won't be only for that. And depending on their campaign, if it's like just a 1 month coding that they're putting up, and then 1 month later something else is coming up, so this term will be 1 month. And because Zomato is only operating in India, the territory might be India only. And media would be like, out of home, OOH, that is the abbreviation for that. And then, so again, like, coming back to media, I would say all media is typically like, for Netflix, because they might use the song for on YouTube just to promote it. It can be digital, it can be broadcast. What if, like, Netflix sells a particular film to Sony TV, example, like 10 years later, that film is being sold to Sony. And suddenly, if you've just taken, you might imagine that Netflix just operates digitally. So why do they have to take broadcast rights? But what if, like, tomorrow Netflix is starting their own channel on TV or broadcast or whatever. So they don't want to go back to you and get this license. Then coming back to context, which is in context and both in and out of context, this is mostly for promotions. In context is like, let's say this song is being licensed to a particular scene. In context is sometimes you've seen Netflix, Amazon putting up like 5 minute scenes of a particular episode or film. So that scene might have the song. So if the song is being shown in promos as it is being used in the film, then that is in context usage. Both in and out of context is basically it is still used for that film's promotion only. It is just that that same duration and all the other stuff can be used in somewhere else also. But it is again in relation to the project only and not like some other project for Netflix. It is always related to that particular film or web series only. Then comes your scene description and duration. This is pretty much straightforward, I would say. How long you're using, like, is it a 30-second usage or 1 minute usage? Obviously, until it is put onto the edit, they can't determine the exact usage. But again, there can be a ballpark, like, for example, if they want to use like a 30-second, or like, let's say in the final edit, it comes up to 46 seconds to be very precise. Then, like, they can come back to you saying, hey, I want like 60 seconds. Like on agreement, it should be cleared that, okay, this is like, these, like it can be used for 60 seconds, but anything less is also fine. So this is like, your typical 7 points. Abhishek, I'll come back to you. And just then comes licensing checklist, I would say. So this is very important. PRO registration for that matter, if like, making sure that you are registered to IPRS in India or any other PRO for all your royalty collection, because once like, licensing is also happening, then you are bound to get royalties also out of it. Split sheet is also very important. Like for example, if there are like two, three composers who are working on a song for a film, making sure there is some sort of split sheet understanding, hey, I've just written the verse, or you be like, okay, there is a duo composer who's worked on this, but there is someone else who's just, you know, maybe, okay, let me give you a better example. I would say there is a duo composer, some Salim Suleiman type, two people, and then there is a lyricist who's also onboarded for this, and suddenly Salim Suleiman, or maybe they've written one verse saying, okay, this is the verse that I like. So automatically there will be a splits between, okay, Salim Suleiman have composed the uh, tune or the melody, which goes up to like equal 50-50 if they're also interested. And then in lyrics, let's say 80% is written by the main lyricist, but 20% of that verse is only written by Salim. So then this is like a general split sheet. You will, if you Google this, you will get a lot of split sheet templates also. It is pretty much straightforward one pager, just writing down each and every splits and just everyone's signature on that paper so that everyone is on same page. And this split sheet, if you submit it to PRO, they will distribute the royalties accordingly. So the example that I gave you, Salim will also get like the 20% of lyrics royalty out of that song because he's also written a part of it. And then getting NOCs from any musicians or anyone else that you have also, like, these are just good practices to have. Like if you have got a flute player uh, for to just record some piece on your song, making sure that, you've just signed an NOC or something like that, similar to this, that, okay, you've just featured on my song and this song belongs to me and something like that. On those lines, you can like, just have an NOC, a mutual no objection that tomorrow some whatever, because of some reason your song goes super viral, then suddenly this flute player should not come back to you saying, hey, now I want money out of this. But you've already paid for whatever session you have booked for him. So I mean that is all cleared. So any more dispute should not happen. So an NOC is also great. Audio files is something which I always advise for all the musicians, like just having stems for your song after your song is finally released. It's there, out there, people are enjoying it. Making sure that, you're having the stems. What if, like, the director likes, want to use a very just acoustic guitar and your vocal file out of that song, nothing else. So just having those group stems, and these are all group stems, I would say. It's not like your individual kick, snare, hi-hat, overheads, like separate stems. These are all group stems, drums, guitar, bass, vocals, keys. Maybe you can separate your vocals also with lead vocals, backing vocals. Like just having that flexibility for edit also. So audio files are very important, and making sure that these are all wave files, high quality, minimum 44/24, I would say 48/24, sorry. And then comes your metadata sheet, which is like, just metadata sheet would consist like your lyrics of the song. Having it documented is very important. Your credit sheet, everyone deserves a credit. So sharing this credit sheet is also very important. Just after your song is done, these are all stuff that you can do post release of your song. Just having your own database, credit sheet, your metadata will also have the tempo of the song, what key your song is in. If you have to write down your chords, you can just write down. This can be helpful for anyone in the future. So it is always better to just have these metadata, maybe add these keywords as to what is the mood of your song, like romantic, happy, cheerful, add all these keywords to your song so that it becomes relevant. And even like, like 10 years down the line, when you have 50, 60 songs released, you can't keep track of each and every song, and you can't remember everything immediately as if someone calls you. So this metadata sheet will always help you. Okay, what are the happy songs in my catalog? Let me just go back to my Google Sheet, Excel, whatever that you are maintaining, and making sure that you're just organized. At the end of the day, it is your material, and you are just ready for any opportunity that comes in. And also, just a small takeaway is that film industry also works, like film advertising, everything works on a very last minute basis. So someone will definitely call you and be like, hey, I want the lyrics of this song, or what are you singing, or what is happening, or someone wants to know something. And like I mentioned, like the publishing usage, if the director is, let's say, a South Indian, and but he's doing some Marathi film, let's say, and he wants to sing the song, but he is not getting the lyrics of the song by just listening to it. He wants the lyrics. So having these metadata, everything is always beneficial for you, so that immediately you can share these stuff. Okay, here is all the details for the song. So just having all these is also important. Like it's all, like I mentioned, it's all last minute thing, and then again suddenly this will be very chaotic. So it's just better when you are in peace in your own time. You can just maybe one song a week. You can just get all these things sorted, and then eventually everything will be in place for you and will be very helpful. And then ultimately, like if someone is like you've seen all the licensing and the terms, usage, everything. So it's just negotiation. End of the day, they want your song which fits perfectly for the brief. And again, um you want their opportunity also. So it's like so. And again, be very friendly, be casual. Okay, if you are not able to understand how much should you quote, you can ask them, what is your budget, how much can you pay. And this is again coming back to licensing, is again they're just licensing your song, you're getting royalties out of it, and also the song rights are still with you. So again, this can't be like, oh, I have made this song for, like, let's say I've spent 5 lakhs on recording. But you should also understand your see, a lot of things also comes into picture, like for example, how popular or how known you are, and all of those things also comes into picture for licensing, I would say. Obviously the song and the main storytelling is very important, but again, everything around that will also evolve. Like for example, a singer songwriter who's just started, he might, like just get a very minimal fees, as opposed to a singer songwriter who is super established might get a lot of money. Because again, that attaching that name to the project will also give them some sort of marketing also. Oh, hey, Pratik Puhad has written a song for a film, which will also give that marketing. And Pratik Puhad, or any other artist song will also, artist fan base and all the other people who are associated with the artist will at least come back to this film and listen, watch this film for once at least. So which will obviously be beneficial for them. So that higher cost also comes with a lot of other things around it. So yeah, so this is where we are right now. Now we can go on to questions. I'm actually also tired. Yes. Um I don't know, Drishti, how do you want to take this questions and everything else?
And there are a few people who have raised their hand. I'll unmute them one by one and then they can ask you their questions.
Okay. Also, just you guys can reach out to me via this email. This is our Instagram, which is not active. Sorry. And this is our website, which, like, it's always there. Uh, our work that we're doing and whatever we're trying to build, feel free to reach out on this email ID anytime. Me and my partner Rahul, who is also a music supervisor, someone will definitely respond to you. If not one for your first email, then maybe your second or third follow-up will definitely be reverted. Don't worry. Yes. So coming back to questions.
Yeah. Yeah, hi, Sandesh. Abhishek this side.
Yes, Abhishek, tell me.
So yeah, couple of first of all, thanks for a very insightful session. I learned a lot about music supervision. I had very little idea about this. So a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. So I am operating in the genre of English indie grunge music, basically.
Okay.
It'll be it's not like singer songwriter. It's like 90s grunge music.
Yeah, yeah.
No
I
heavier.
totally get that. Soundgarden,
Yeah.
Nirvana, all those stuff.
Yeah. So, the first question was basically when we talk about licensing,
Hmm.
the slide which you presented, is it specifically talking about sync licensing?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. And the second question was that, if suppose, my music is out on Spotify, and there are two cases. One is that I'm approached for, somebody who wants to use a part of the song or the entire song in their, web series or ad or, a film.
Hmm.
And second is the case of, some filmmaker approaches me who's doing an English documentary or an English movie, and certain songs he wants me to make basis my genre.
Hmm.
In both the cases, as an upcoming artist,
Hmm.
how do I know, like, what is the right amount to quote and what is the going market concern in my genre, which is kind of niche, basically.
See, coming back to how much should you quote, that is very subjective, I would say. Maybe what you can do is talk to people who have license or who have had previous experience of writing songs for someone else. Ask them, okay, how much did you quote and how was your experience, all of those things. And based on that, you can see, okay, like he's a well established artist. If he's got 5 lakhs, I can maybe quote 2 lakhs. This is just an example, but I would say, based on those numbers, see, these are all subjective numbers. There is no set number. Someone can work for like 10,000, 50,000. People are willing to work for any amount. You know how the industry is. So, I mean, there is no set number for that. But that being said, like ask that person their budget first, I would suggest. Like, what is your budget? What budget do you have? Like, let's say there documentaries, for example, like you mentioned, documentaries are always made for a very low cost or no cost kind of thing because they just want to put out the story. So a lot of times what happens is they might not have budget. But again, like for example, Anuv Jain, if you reach out to Anuv Jain and be like, I don't have budget, he will not work. But if you are working, this is all subjective, I would say, which is why. So if you are comfortable working in, okay, like let's say, for example, you are just starting out in the career and you be like, okay, uh, this documentary can help me just grow as a person and just make music. As of now, I'm just starting out. I don't care about money. I want to make music. So then this is also a good option that you can say that, okay, if you're not paying me, can we do some sort of, this is just a suggestion where you putting out the song on your YouTube channel with a montage of their videos or whatever, just putting it out saying, this is, so this will help you market your song also. Those things you can also try and do. So these are all just you'll have to find ways in which ultimately it is beneficial for you. Can be a monetary benefit or just as an artist it is benefiting you. But if someone is not able to pay, but they'll be like, oh no, but we're going to some film festivals and your song will also be out on Spotify. We will market it. We will shoot a music video for you. Okay, if that works for you without being paid for that, then that is also a good deal, I would say. So you have to just gauge as to, which is why you have to discuss, ask more questions as to, okay, if you it's not, the first thing should not be always, okay, you don't have budget, I don't want to work. Just understand. So if these things are, oh, they'll be like, oh no, there is no budget, there is no marketing that we're doing. It's all very basic, simple. Then it is your call. If you don't want to do it, you don't do it. But don't force yourself is also what I would say. Ultimately, you have to make the song and you have to be there. And then suddenly they're giving you 10 headaches and you'll be like, "Arey, they're not even paying me. But again, I have to bear this headaches and all. Why did I get into this? Don't want to fall into that zone. So just understanding where everyone is also coming from is also very important. And also making sure that everything is mentioned in the contract. Contract is very important for you, whatever licensing or working on an original song. So that is also very important.
Yeah, and one small thing is that for an artist who's been there for 10 years, versus an artist who just been there for 1 year, right? Is
Mhm.
there an industry rule that let's assume that this artist there for 10 years, he charges a standard of 1 lakh for licensing.
Mhm.
Does that mean that an artist who's just starting out will only get 50% as a starting amount?
No, 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 that is not the case. That is not the case. Even newer artists, see again, like, it depends on budget, conversation, who, like, art, like, let's say, an artist who's just started out is approached for licensing without any label, backing, management, nothing, will get like very basic minimal amount, as opposed to an artist who's just new but is backed by a nice management, let's say some bigger management, or is also signed to Sony Music or Saregama or whatever. So having that backing, it's just first song that they've released, but having that backing, then Saregama will be like, no, we have invested so much into this artist and this is the cost for that. So that is also very subjective, I would say.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Sandesh. Uh, Sahil this side.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just like a follow-up question to what Abhishek has asked. So is there any difference between sync and licensing, or both are like the same thing? Or
Yeah, it's sync is synchronization.
hmm. So as far as I can understand, it works two ways, right? Like if I have already released some music and somebody approaches me to license that, or or sometimes it happens that somebody approaches with an idea that I want you to make a song like that. So most of the times, how does it work? How does people or the persons stakeholder in the industry works? Do they prefer acquiring already released music, or is it the other way around, like they come with an idea and ask you to compose a song?
No, see, it is very subjective.
Hmm.
See, a lot of composers, what they do is, see, they're not working 365 days. Okay.
Hmm.
They're getting any idea, they'll just make a demo and keep it aside and be like, oh, I just got an idea for this romantic song and I've just made it and kept it aside. It's not for any purpose. But tomorrow, like 6 months later, I come back to you. See, sometimes a lot of people also know that bigger composers also have songs in their bank. Something like I mentioned, they'll keep making songs because the brain is always active. The demand is there or not is very subjective. But
Hmm.
if something is there within your bank, you can share those things. Okay, you asked for a romantic song. I have like these 3 songs already being made at a very demo level in my bank. You listen, you see if anything clicks. Anything clicks, I can develop that. Otherwise, I can work on something new.
Okay, okay, got it. So it usually work both ways, right?
Yes,
It
yes,
could be
both.
either.
See, if
Okay.
it is something which is already being made, it saves your time because then you know the direction that
Hmm.
you have to take.
Hmm.
Okay,
Correct.
this is like this is okay, and then we can proceed, and then you can take that particular direction and just move ahead.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, wait, I'll call out the names and then you guys unmute because this might get chaotic. Meghna.
Yeah. Hi, Sandesh. How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So I'm also, an aspiring music composer. So this session was very, very interesting for me. And I did have a few questions from the perspective of a music supervisor, you
Okay.
know. So, my first question is a very general question,
Hmm.
which is in general for the music department when we're whether it's a movie or OTT series or whichever. If we talk about the music department, usually what is the budget allocation for music department in terms of percentage of the entire budget of the project?
This is a very good question. In the West, usually it is West, I would say in US, it is
40%, right?
somewhere around 20 to 30% of the whole film budget.
Yeah, because I was also recently kind of studying up about it, and I've seen that it's usually like you said, like 20, 30, but max tops is like 40% of the film budget is what is going to the music department. So what's
Correct.
the trend in India?
Yeah, see, India, it is, see, again, like for example, if you're working with Netflix, they would also, Netflix is also involved in during this budgeting stage. So every department is budgeted properly. So it is mostly a discussion between the production house and the budget and Netflix. It's not like us being involved in that. So it is mostly their discussion, and this is also a fair discussion where they'll be like, if, like, let's say, if you are just looking at only original score and maybe a theme song, that's about it. One original song, no licensing, only background score for the whole film. Then, I mean, Netflix will be like, why do you have to allocate like 30% of the budget? And, maybe we can use this budget into some VFX or some other departments, which can be very beneficial, or we can use that during the production for set design, this, that, whatever. So, all of those things can be also taken care of. So it's very subjective in India, I would say, depending on what sort of musical direction they want to take, they allocate the budgets accordingly.
Right, right. Because I was just thinking about it in general, because even a good mix master for an independent artist track these days costs so much. So I was trying to scale that to
Yeah.
a film level, and I was trying to think about it, which is
No,
why I was
but again, see, usually when I also approach people for any music, even licensing or even like for original songs also, it is always a package deal. Again, I
okay,
don't want to take an unmixed song, take it to a mix engineer and do that. You do everything. See, again, which is why if like, people always demand for more, but again, slightly more. Like, let's say you've spent 2 lakh rupees on working on 5 songs for your independent release, which comes up to how much? Shit, 80, no, not 80,000, sorry. 40,000, I would say, right?
right, around, yeah,
Approximately, yeah. So you've spent roughly 40,000 on recording. Maybe you've recorded vocals and acoustic guitar in studio, and everything else is just home production. And your mixing mastering is also done through a friend for which you've paid some 10, 15,000. So this is a very compact indie structure, I would say. But if you're requested for a film, of course, the quality and the scale is also higher. So
right,
you quote accordingly. Like, let's say you speak to a mixing engineer and be like, okay, how much do you quote for a film song to be mixed? If he's like 50,000, okay, gather these quotes and be like, okay, mixing will be 40, 50,000. I want to record live drums. I want to do some live flute, let's say acoustic vocals, everything will be done in the studio. So this is like your basic cost, the fundamental cost. Then you can add up your composition cost or any other. Uh, if you're getting a drummer live recording drums that you're doing, then get the session drummers cost, this, that, just collate everything. Then it will be very basic cost. Let's say it comes up to 2 lakhs. You add 1 lakh your fees and be like, 3
okay,
lakhs, or maybe you can just bump it up saying, hey, I want 3.5. They'll obviously negotiate, come down to 3, and then you lock it there. So in a
right,
way, you are also getting paid, and all the quality and everything is also there.
right,
Again, like you've also heard all the mainstream Bollywood the songs, there is no mixing mistakes or tonal defects that you listen. Everything is crystal clear. You might not like the song, but like mix wise, the production wise,
yeah,
it's always there top notch. So again, you everyone is aiming for that.
Right.
Everyone is also, they're habituated with listening to that kind of music. So
Quality of,
anything like raw bedroom recording also will might decline your chances. So if you're getting any these opportunities, also just making sure that everything is presented well.
absolutely. And I just had another like couple of quick questions, which is just let's say at an entry level in the industry, how does someone kind of network to get that first opportunity? Because creativity is something that's instinctive. You develop it with practice and you learn on the job, and that's different. But as someone who would like to get opportunities in the industry at some point in time, what is the entry level expectations? What kind of skills do you look for?
For original songs or
No,
licensing?
in general, for as a music supervisor for background scores or for original music, either which way, what is the kind of expectations that you have? Like, I'm assuming since, like you said, for original songs also, you kind of think of artists and you say, hey, maybe we can bring them onto the project.
Hmm.
Similarly, I'm assuming that even for original scores, you might at some point also think about composers, right? You would say, hey, this composer is better. And they might come with a team of assistant
Yes.
composers. So how is the entry level for someone to be an assistant composer or producer on a project? How is that entry level skill set defined?
See, for entry level, I would say for scores, usually what happens is it's a very typical formula that a lot of composers use is that they start assisting a lot of composers, and these composers will get project, they will assist them and then understand, okay, how you work under them for like 2 3 years to like these are also films and web series that are made across 2 3 years. So for these 2 3 years you might work on 3 to 4 projects roughly, and then you will get to know, okay, these are the timelines that people work and how quick things work, and like, what are the demands from the producer or even Netflix or this that whatever. So you understand on the pressure that you're. So after that, obviously, once you have that skill set, once you have that network also, once you get to know, you go to the meetings with these composers or you attend these meetings or you be just informed about, okay, hey, what happened, and maybe you then again reaching out to the production house saying, hey, I worked with you on this project. Of course, you
Right.
don't know me, but I have worked with this composer on that project. So you have to go through that. So LinkedIn is a better place to just
Ah,
speak to
okay.
people. So that
Yeah.
might be helpful if you are like, if you want to. But again, if for scores and all, people try to do a lot of temp scores where you might get a lot of these videos on YouTube just with
Ah,
dialogue, sound effects, and no score. So you just download that, or maybe there are some websites also which sell these stuff. So I'm not
yeah,
sure
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
that. But if once you get these resources, you build your own things and be
Portfolio,
like,
yeah.
hey,
Just
yeah,
prep
this is
demos
what
and
I'm
stuff.
doing. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kiara.
Hi, Sandesh. This is Kaira.
Kaira, sorry.
It's okay. My name is Kaira. I'm a singer-songwriter and a composer. So, yeah, Meghna, thanks. She already questioned. I had the same question. Another question I had was, uh, if I want to, apply for a supervisor, how much experience am I required to, for this
See,
job?
coming back to wait, I'll tell you. Shit, are you guys seeing my screen? Don't see my screen. Sorry. I don't know where this thing is gone. But yeah, see, again, in terms of experience, I would say you should see again music supervision in India, it's not like super established. And in a country where there are roughly 1 to 2,000 films being made every year, there are handful supervisors, like around 10 music supervisors, let's say. So things are like me, Ankur Tiwari, there is Azim Dayani, there is Anurag Shankar, There is Faustin who's working, Vishruti who's working. So there are like these bunch of people who are working, and it's a very closed network, I would say. Everyone knows everyone, and they're just working towards one goal. So, but it's like, there should be these interest and, like, this general awareness of what is happening, I would suggest, as opposed to, like, having a specific skill set. Of course, like, just understanding the music department and the creation and everything else is also very important, so that, like, if you're going to a director to understand some brief, that should also be translated to the composer. So that understanding is very important. So once that is there, obviously, like, on the go, you'll also learn a lot of things.
Okay, so from what you said, now that I am a vocalist myself and I play a little bit piano and a guitar, and I do know a little bit of production. So
Hmm.
imagine you're the director, you have a production house, and I want to, apply for a music supervisor in your production house. So because I don't have, I have a little bit idea, like you just said, but experience, no, I've not worked with anyone before. This is my first time. So should I like ask for some other position in your production house, so that side by side I also get to learn what is
No,
the other.
no, that is not advisable, I would say. Just because you want to get into finance doesn't mean you start doing HR work and then you get into finance. That won't do.
No,
Uh,
like the assistant director thing. I was
No, I mean, see, the role, every role is, why the roles are also defined is that every role asks for certain work to be done. Okay, assistant director will have to do something else also. He's
Yeah.
under the director, like I mentioned. Director is handling VFX, dubbing, everything else, editing, shoot. So
visual.
assistant director will be with the director for all the other stuff. Then you can't focus just on music. But in this scenario, what you can do is maybe, like, if you are approaching production houses, you can just get leads on your own if you want to do that. Otherwise, you can reach out to all the other music supervisors and be like, hey, this is, like, I want to just help you out and learn on the go as you are also working on the projects and something like. But that interest should come from your end, because, see, again, music supervision is something which is very new in India, I would say. This is also a risk that you have to take along with the interest. Okay, that I want to do this for a very long time. And again, like I said, it's a long format projects that we're working on, films and web series. These goes on for like years. So you have to stay committed. You have to work on that. It can't be like, you're just there for 2-3 months and suddenly you're just gone. I'm not interested in this. This is like, you have to make up your mind and then get into it, is what I would suggest.
Okay, thanks. I got my all questions answered.
Yes. Aditya.
Hi Sandesh, this is
Hi.
Aditya. I'm from Hyderabad. So I just have a question. Suppose if I want to become a music supervisor,
Hmm.
and suppose I signed up with a film.
Hmm.
So typically, how demanding would the job be? Like, as in, would I get it? Would I get time to work on my own songs or stuff like that? Or
Yeah,
is it very demanding?
very, very good question. See, there is something called as swim lanes. Okay. Swim lanes is, this is my lane. You've seen in the Olympics, right? There is this swim lane that the swimmer has to swim and he can't go in the other direction. Uh, in Mumbai, you can call this khujli, where, people might be very itchy onto things and be like, hey, I can do, I like, for example, I'm a guitarist. I can listen to some songs, guitar parts, and be like, I can compose some better guitar parts. But again, this is your swim lane. Your work is to just, like, concentrate. And again, you can see on the side, if you have time, you can definitely do your own stuff. But when you are a music supervisor, you have to be supervisor and you are not a musician. You can't get into someone else's studio and be like, hey, let me play this better guitar part for you, or
Right,
what.
right, right.
So you have to have that swim lanes, asking them that, okay, hey, this is like, whatever the best way that you can explain and with the least amount of efforts. It's not that you are playing some guitar part or sending them a mobile recording and be like, this might work. You are still getting into their swim lane, I would say. So you have to draw your boundaries.
Correct.
Like every role will also have a boundary, I would say. So you have to make sure that those boundaries are drawn and you're not going somewhere else and be like, hey, I can do this, I can do that. See, I have also in my previous projects, I have also sat with composers in the studio, making sure that we want this XYZ immediately. But again, I am not like the one who's programming. I am telling this guy, you do, I'm sitting outside or I'm sitting behind, you work because this is just urgent and we want it delivered. I'll be just there to just give you a quick heads up. Okay, this is working, this is not working, but I'm not getting into nitty gritties.
Right.
So that distance has to be there.
Also, one follow-up is regarding the timelines of a film, because if you start working on a film, so it will sometimes start as a 1 year project or 3 months project, but it will go on till 2 to 3 years. So
Yes.
how would that financially impact you, and would you be able to accept another project during this time and all? You know what I meant, right?
Yeah, see, so but here your question is as a supervisor or as an artist?
As a supervisor.
Okay. See, this is also what I have learned over the years is initial projects, the same thing I had faced on one project where we have Deepa also in this call. Deepa was also a part of this project, like briefly, I would say. Uh, so what happened with that project is we had signed the project and there was like a 1.5 year timeline roughly that this project will end by this date, whatever. But it went on for 6 more months, 8 more months. So, I mean, so then either what you do is within your contract, the term you will have to mention that, when you're negotiating your contract also, making sure that, okay, this one, like let's say, example, you are getting 5 lakh rupees for a project, which goes on for like 1 year. And you can say that, okay, 1 year, like this is August, be like, okay, next August, till next August, I will get 5 lakhs. And after whatever is happening, maybe after every month that is exceeded, I want 20,000 per month or 30,000 per month, depending on that. You can do that calculation and you can do that. This is also that I have learned later on that you can do this. Or what you can do is instead of asking 5 lakhs for a project, you can be like, per month, I want this money for
Right.
this particular project. And then whatever, if the project is being exceeded, you are also getting paid. Then there is no boundary being set. It's
Right.
just monthly money that you're getting.
Right.
So in like, I'm just going to 6 lakhs just because it is easier to calculate, which is 50,000 a month. Let's say you be like, I'm charging 6 lakhs for this project, but you give me for 1 year, you give me 50,000 every month. And there is no like limit for this. If this project goes on to 2 years, you are getting paid 12 lakhs out of it. And so
Right.
it's not a loss for you.
Correct. Thanks. Yeah.
Anyone else? Anything else? Hi, Deepa. Deepa is also there, by the way. Deepa, shout out to Deepa. Deepa works for Chorus Music and also Anara Publishing, which is from London. It's a publishing company. And Deepa keeps on sending new music, whatever they've been working on. So yeah. We've done one successful project and the other project which got shelved, unfortunately. But yeah, we want to work more together. Yes.
Quick hi.
Hi, Deepa. Sorry to put you on the spotlight, but yeah, it is what it is.
Hello, Sandesh.
Yes,
Yeah, so hi, my name is Kannu,
yes.
and I'm an independent music artist based out in Vadodara, Gujarat. So I'm doing music in Hindi, and I'm a pop and hip hop music artist. So I'm working in full-time MNC company here in Vadodara, and
Sorry, I just a minute. I couldn't hear you properly. Can you just repeat?
yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, yes. Much
Yeah,
better.
so yeah, so I'm an independent music artist based out in Vadodara, Gujarat.
Hmm.
And I do music in Hindi. Till now, I have released 10 plus songs everywhere independently. And
Oh,
I'm working in MNC company full time as of
oh.
now. So I really want to switch in music industry, and I don't have any experience in any music job. So can you suggest any job which I can approach in the Mumbai city so I can switch in the industry?
See, I would suggest just generally working in the industry is also very subjective because at the end of the day, it should interest you. So I would suggest you do some research. Of course, if you are a hip hop artist, I would suggest you can work in some labels, which is Gully Gang is one hip hop label. There is Azadi Records, which is like solely into hip hop. There is Mass Appeal, which is also a label. Uh, there is Def Jam. Recently, they've they've got Hanuman Kind's music out. So there are these labels also, which is very specific to hip hop because hip hop has grown by a lot of numbers in these recent years in India. So maybe if that interests you, you will be around these people, which will also help you just listen to more music and put out good quality music from your end also. You will also learn a lot. So maybe you can try all these options, I would suggest. Labels is one thing. Maybe like artist management, if that interests you, like specifically hip hop artist, or maybe uh, 8 out of 10 artists are hip hop, maybe all those companies that you like, and you can do that.
Uh,
Thank you.
Sandesh, I have one more question.
Yes, yes.
So regarding sync licensing, if you want someone asks you to get the license for a video, for a song,
Yeah, okay.
so you will be the bridge between the one who is
Production
requesting
house
for
and the art.
production house and the artist. So if
Yes.
you want to get this sync, you need to reach the publisher, right?
No, essentially not. See,
Okay.
again, that depends if the artist is signed to a publisher or not.
Right. Okay. Suppose an indie artist song is required.
Hmm.
So then whom do you approach? You will go to the indie artist, obviously, right?
Yes, see, so what I typically do is either on Spotify, every song, if you click on those three dots and
Right.
show credits,
Sure. Great.
you will get like on the last line, you will see like the label's name or
Right.
someone also. If it is Universal, Saregama or everything, Saregama and all typically put their logo also in their album art. So you can typically make out the all the major labels that is there.
Right.
Apart, other than that, you just reach out to the artist or artist's management, whatever management they
Okay.
are, and you just speak to them. Obviously, if they're signed to any label publisher, they will redirect you to them. If
So
like, you are signed to any other publishing company, first you know that you are signed. So if I reach out to you saying I want to license your song, you can redirect. Okay, thank you for the inquiry. I am signed to a publisher. Here is their details, and they will. You can speak to them directly, and they will take care of all the negotiation and.
what if the publisher is a big company like Saregama? So how do you reach them? Like again, there is some point of contact for that, right?
See, so now over these years, what I have done is I've just built my network with like, so every label also has a sync department.
Okay.
Okay, so like Saregama, T Series, like you name Warner, Universal, everyone, all the major labels has someone who's just pitching their music to all the syncs. Wow. So, so that is always there. So, you reach out to them, and all these years, like I have also built a relationship with them. So I can reach out to them directly. But if you also want, I can also help you. Just reach out to them. That is not a problem. That is not a gold mine for me also. So
Thank you.
they're just waiting for someone to reach out to them and give them syncs. So
That helps. Thank you.
yes. And LinkedIn is also a good place, by the way, to just uh, research on these people.
Yeah. Thank you.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
I just noticed the pitch section on your website.
Hmm.
Does it mean as artists we can pitch our music, and do you have a sound bank when you pitch it to visuals or anywhere?
See, honestly, we haven't updated our website for a long time. That is one. Second is, see, what we've also learned is over these years is uh, you see, you can, it need not to be pitched. Like I mentioned, you can email us directly that this is my music and this is what I do. And it's always there with us. We just keep it as a database inside our, like, we have a database where we're just dumping all the music links there. And eventually, if something is being needed, we will definitely get in touch with you.
Okay. Just a short question. I was just thinking content wise,
Yeah.
would it be good as an artist if as an artist we think creatively also the visuals?
Hmm.
What if I think, for example, if I'm my music works, I think the music works good on a Cadbury ad or something, and I do it myself and put it on Instagram just because I know it may work in the future as a
Hmm.
portfolio. Would it be taken down because I'm using the visuals of Cadbury?
Oh, that I don't know for visuals. If it is audio, definitely it will take down. Instagram is very quick on just taking down things. But I don't know about video, man. I'm really sorry for that.
But it would work if I'm working on a portfolio, right?
Yeah,
If I make
yeah. Usually it should work. Even on YouTube also, whatever I've seen, people put it out as private videos. So whoever
yeah,
has the link only will can see that. So automatically it becomes very uh like intimate, I would say.
good, makes sense. Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thank you. And I think your question was also there for Ritwis song, right? I just saw the chat. So
Correct.
this will be a non-exclusive deal because again, he has to keep all the rights and everything else. So this is a non-exclusive deal.
Okay,
If it is an exclusive deal, then obviously, like let's say 2 years exclusive deal, then it is exclusively attached to that perk ad and no one else can use it. So, but usually people don't do it because then again, it it is just stuck there. So it's always better to do a non-exclusive deal.
makes sense.
Cool.
Hi Sandesh, Namrata here.
Yes, Namrata.
So I have a question regarding the same thing. It's based on basically, I just want to know how do you pitch for OSTs for like if you have a song already which is out for a
Hmm.
couple of years, if it's on the DSP, all the streaming platforms and all. So if I want to still pitch it for like a jingle or an ad, or maybe I don't have a reference to how I want to pitch
Hmm.
it. I just want to put it out there that this is there for, if you do want to use it for a commercial purpose or anything. So how do I pitch it as an artist? So if I'm doing everything by myself as an independent artist.
See, if it's a Hindi song very limited to India only, then obviously you can reach out to all the supervisors that are there in India, though they will also help you out. Uh, there is one more company. I don't remember his company's name, but that guy's name is Anurag Rao.
Okay.
He specifically does like a lot of sync licensing for he's done like for a lot of bigger projects also, something like some hockey tournament and all of those things he had licensed, because in the stadiums also there are a lot of songs being played. For that he's licensed.
Right.
He's mostly like, he doesn't have any songs with him. He's just licensing. So these are the people that you can like. Oh, Chain Reactor. Thank you, Deepa.
Yeah.
Anurag from Chain Reactor. You can send an
Chain
email
Reactor.
to him. You can just put an email to me also, and just describing what you also feel. I think this.
Right. So
Yeah.
mainly my genre is right now it is neo soul along with a little bit of electronic, like so a little heavy on the bass. So that's why I said it might be good for commercial purpose, like just a very short clip of a maybe an ad or something, or just like a purpose of just announcing an event or something on like how it comes on VH1 or like whatever. So there are sections of the song that could be used. So how do I pitch that? Like, do I pitch the entire song or do I put that
No,
specific?
no. If the more the information should also be like, maybe you can, if you want to be very precise, you can be like, obviously you'll share the song, but you can mention the duration, saying, hey, 20 seconds to 1 minute is something which I feel can go very well in these ads. But again, if you want to be very general also, you can be like, is this song can go uh, do well with ads or something like that. So you can be very general about that. And you can also say that this song is what I feel can be very sync friendly. And, one more thing I would also suggest, like in terms of lyrics also, if you can if you can just zoom out a bit in terms of lyrics, and not like, because lyrics is also something which people try and associate with. So if you're very particular onto lyrics, let's say a red car going past me or something like that. So visually also it should be red car. What if it's a black car in the film or whatever, something like that.
In context to
Yes,
the
the context in the lyrics is also very important. So if you can just zoom out in your lyrics also, it will be great. Like, just going past traffic. So something like that. So which can be very generalized and can be, then the use case will also be multiple as opposed to just very specific to one thing.
got it. Can you please tell me the name? It was
It's in the chat. Yes. Chain Reactor.
Chain Reactor. Okay, yeah, got it. Thank you.
Chainreactor.in. Yes. You can reach out to him also. He's doing a lot of stuff.
Sure. Thanks for the information. Thank you.
Cool. We can wrap this up then. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Sandesh, for taking the time for being a part of our masterclass series. Truly appreciated.
Thank you, Sandesh. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, Sandesh.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Sandesh. Bye bye.